Brown, waiting on you.
Waiting
on me.
Pack leader, baby.
Cue it up there, big boy.
Cue up what?
Whatever. Some kind of music that YouTube will let us actually play.
Now you're asking for something.
Now you're asking for something. Look at this thing. Rotten.
357 Productions is proud to present the Masonain, a monthly podcast for Freemasons with a focus on the grand jurisdiction of North Carolina. While not an official function of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, we operate with the full endorsement of Grandmaster Bryant Webster. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants and in no way reflect the opinions of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina, its members, or any appendant bodies. 357 Productions doesn't own the music. As always, we wish we did, and we really like it.
A lot. I've listened to plenty of it this weekend.
This is our YouTube disclaimer. Don't come get us.
Don't come after us.
And today it's just me and you, the pack leader. We got the worshipful Ben Wallace.
Howdy.
And we got Sean Brown in the back.
Hello.
Brother Sean Brown.
Hello.
And it's just us.
Well, what are we going to talk about for an hour? We got an hour's worth of material.
We'll make it stretch. But first, I got to find out about this. For our listeners out there, the two of you, we wanted to let you guys know they just got back from a huge trip, and I've been dying to find out about us. All these pictures on Facebook of all these cool places. They took off on their motorcycles, and I was picking at them just a few minutes ago. I told them it was a brocation for these two to go off, but it was pretty cool. Where all did you go?
Well, we went to the mountains, and I don't really know where we went because Brown's like has become the world traveler. Last time we shot, he had just gotten back from Daytona. So this is getting to be a habit with Brown that he's going on once a month.
Being here.
And left me here. I weaseled my way into this trip. His wife literally called me at 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon, texted me and said, we're going to ride the Dragon. Do you want to come? And I think it was one of those things where they hated not to ask, but they didn't really want me to come. And I said, hell yeah, I want to go to the Dragon.
Yeah. Maybe if it's 1 o'clock, he'll say no.
So then we got Darla involved. Darla said, heck yeah, I want to go to the mountains. So we threw together a last-minute trip. Went and spent Memorial Day in the mountains. Brown, what was the name of that place we were at?
Fontana Village.
Fontana Village. And so we went from there. We rode a lot of those roads, and Brown used to spend a lot of time up there, right, buddy?
Sure did.
And so everywhere, I'm always like trying to, drive those curvy roads and look at my GPS and look, trying to figure out where we're at and figure out, the compass direction and where I think we're going. But mostly Brown he just knows. So all you got to do with Brown is hang on.
It looked really cool. The pictures look beautiful. Beautiful country.
We had great weather and good time. I got to spend some time with my family, and turns out they're pretty nice people.
That's always good. It's always good. We don't see them much, but
we don't get to see them much. We had a ball. It just makes me wonder sometimes. I mean, I know Masonry's important, but I don't know. Some things are probably more important than that, and I don't know. I sure would like to spend a little more time with my family and my friends. Spend a lot of time with Brown, but we're always doing something Masonic. It was kind of nice to be away from all that and just hang out and ride motorcycles and do mountain things.
Forget everything.
Everything.
I can't believe you guys didn't call Thatcher, see if he'd meet you.
Man, we talked about that when we were up there, but it all got thrown together so last minute. And we knew that he was stumping on the politics.
That's right.
And so we probably would have taken away from his politic time if he'd come
and
out.
He probably had a press conference with Trump or Obama or somebody. So
I'm sure he did. So
or somehow ruined the campaign.
Yeah, or worse, we'd be trying to ride motorcycles and smoke cigars and drink beer, and there would have been like a press corps following him.
Yeah, it might not look good on social media.
Yeah, there'd be Scott Pelley over there trying to interview us while we were trying to have a good time, and we'd have to run him off. It would have been a bad scene. So maybe when Thatcher's not so famous and everything, we can get him to come down and just hang out with us again, or not again, sometime. We were talking about him one day. I said, I wonder how far it'd be to go see Thatcher, but it was far. it was farther than we could pull off. So someday, we can dream. What do you think? Can we do it, Brown?
Absolutely.
Here's the one thing that we missed. We did a lot of really cool stuff. We don't have time to do it all on the show. But we had this little waitress there wherever that place was we were staying, and she told us about some local entertainment that was like what the locals do, and it sounded really cool. Here's what it was. Apparently, at this little village, if you drive up this dirt drive up on top of the hill where they keep the dumpsters, if you go up there at night, there's bears out getting in the dumpsters. And we could have gone and seen the bears, but we didn't make it. I don't know what happened that night. I think we were too tired from riding motorcycles. All we could do was lay down and try to recover.
Old age is tough.
So you did take a couple of pictures of some Masonic stuff. I saw something that looked like a fireplace, some kind of big Masonic emblem on it. And
Yeah, so Brown's been wanting to go to this Masonic marker. Brown, tell us about it.
Yeah, there's a Masonic marker up above Maggie Valley, and I've been wanting to go to see it, so we finally got to see it. It's got 600 and something stones from all over the world, been donated to form this monument there in the mountains.
I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of pictures of that thing. And it always looked kind of small and cheesy in the pictures, but it was quite impressive when we got there. I mean, they built this thing in the 20s, and there's like, some of this, there was like some Blue Lodges that had donated, and every time they donate, they get like a stone, and they get like their lodge name put on it. Some individuals, and like there was a Scottish Rite maybe, but most of it was York Rite stuff, and it was York Rite. Boy, the York Rite people are going to be mad at me. They don't call them a valley, whatever they call their a chapter or whatever. And then they had like the so-and-so Order of Royal and Select Masters, which is like some kind of sub. York Rite's got a million of these little subtitles like that, and so a bunch of them had given. But it was really cool the way they had put it together, and it was bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yes, it was really nice.
So I tried to get Brown to climb over the fence. There's this iron fence there and take a picture on it. But we'd been riding so long, he was too tired, he couldn't get over the fence. He tried. But, age and energy was catching up with him, and we just couldn't pull it off. He didn't lay down on the ground. We got a great picture of that.
I was afraid there would be tranquilizer darts.
But you did drive behind a waterfall that you weren't supposed to.
Yeah, well, they blocked it off, but the state needs to be better about how they block that thing off.
Yeah,
I'm
two
sure it's a
cones aren't
safety.
going to stop you.
Yeah, we kind of went around that, but that was near, what was the name of that place?
Highlands, North Carolina.
Highlands. That's where I think that's where Dave Cashin lives. We didn't have time to look him up though. We were breezing through, but yeah, we stopped at the waterfalls and crawled down to the bottom of them and then drove behind the one. It was a great trip though. We had a really good time, but it really did get me thinking, about how much time we spend with Masonry and all the other things in life, and the 24-inch gauge tells us to divide our time. And I think that sometimes we don't do a very good job of that. I know I don't.
No, I don't.
But,
I think we're all guilty.
The problem is, what do you give up? I mean, what do you give up?
It's tough. I mean, there's so many things that, especially the three of us, are so passionate about that, you're right. What do you give up?
I mean, I don't want to give up. I mean, well, everybody's got their own list, right? But, all this stuff that we're doing, there's nothing in Masonry that I'm doing that I just think, well, I don't really care about that. I'll quit that. I mean, the things that, like I'm in York Rite and I don't go very much. I like the idea of York Rite and love the degrees. I couldn't do everything. So I don't really participate a lot. I'm still a member.
But you don't want to quit.
I got to think, I don't want to quit. It wouldn't do any good if I did quit because I don't go anywhere, right? The things that I'm involved in, I don't want to give up. And you're the same way and Brown's the same way and every other Mason, I guess. But at some point, something's got to go. I don't know. I guess we're just bitching and moaning at this point. But we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't like it. But boy, it sure was nice to get a break from it.
Well, I'm afraid if you keep following people like myself, you'll become a full-blown rebel.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it wouldn't take all. I don't know. Again, I don't want to give up any of my Mason stuff, but if I did have to give up my Mason stuff, maybe I could get kicked. Maybe we could arrange to get kicked out. Then we wouldn't have to worry about
blackball
what we're going to give. Yeah, because if you get kicked out of Masonry, you're kicked out of all of it, right?
That's right, all of it.
Then we wouldn't have to worry about it. Then we could go down there and talk to the wingman, see about joining the wingman.
There you go.
Huh, that'd be cool. They got like a clubhouse right down,
in Fayetteville.
Well, they got one in Moore County and they got one in Rockingham.
That's right.
Too.
I forgot about Moore County.
Yeah.
Then we just ride motorcycles. Of course, then we'd be gone riding motorcycles all the time. Still wouldn't see our family, but we'd be into something. We'd be doing something.
It'd be a totally different podcast.
It would be a different podcast. Would we have to change the name of it? Somebody would be coming in here listening to us about Masonry, and there we are talking about something we did with the motorcycle gang that weekend.
that we might not can talk about.
Yeah, we'd have to change our disclaimer then.
Oh, yes, we would.
Speaking of our disclaimer,
Tell me about that.
So we're doing these Davy Academy interviews, and a lot of those guys listen to the podcast that interviewed, and one of them said, I like the show. I don't really understand the disclaimer. Why? And it says that y'all, really aren't sanctioned by the Grand Lodge. It sounds like y'all should just be doing this for the Grand Lodge. Why aren't y'all doing it for the Grand Lodge? So we've talked about this a lot on the show, right? Tell us why, Riley.
Well, we may say something that the Grand Master doesn't approve of, or some appendant body doesn't approve of, or somebody in the Grand Line. This is just our views. 3 knuckleheads sitting in a bar, and it's our views. And we don't want. If it's just our views, then we're not making anybody mad.
Well, I don't
Or at
know
least
about
we're not
that.
going to get in trouble. I mean, we're talking about getting blackballed, but we're
that's
we're
right.
not really ready yet.
We're not ready yet. We're getting closer, but not yet. Yeah, so we can just kind of say anything, that we want to say without. We'd have to be so careful,
Right.
not to say anything that would offend anybody, or if we came down on the wrong side of the issue, we don't want somebody calling down here saying you must change your views on this issue. You must issue an apology. Well, we don't want all that. We can say anything we want. Plus, here's the really cool thing: we get pissed off, we can just quit.
That's right.
And if we worked for the Grand Lodge, we couldn't just quit. I guess we could,
and again,
but
right.
we
If we
would.
work for the Grand Lodge, I mean, if we said something like you said, and somebody got really, really offended, and we were on the wrong side of the issue, then ultimately we're just the knuckleheads who said it. But they're going to be calling the Grand Master, and he's going to be the one getting in trouble over it.
Right.
So,
And here's one more thing. Occasionally, I never let anybody tell us what we're going to say on our show.
that's
Ever.
right.
Ever. We talk about what we want to talk about. But every now and then, one of the Grand Line officers or somebody in Masonry will say, why don't y'all bring this up? Why don't y'all approach this subject this way on your podcast? Why don't just consider approaching this subject this way, or consider this side of something? And we ultimately decide if we want to approach it that way or not. But it gives them a way to say things that they can't say as the Grand Muckety Mucks.
That's right.
Occasionally, and if we go along with it, then we can kind of cast something out, or we can throw something out there that they can't say. So it's it can be kind of a sounding board without actually being a official sounding board. We're the knuckleheads they trot out there to.
That's right.
No, we don't. We really don't do that. We really do make our own decisions. But anyway, for all those reasons, that's why we hadn't talked about it. We used to talk about it a lot, but that was early on, and some people don't go back and listen to our early stuff. So just in case people are wondering about it, that's why we're not official and don't want to be official. Never plan to be official.
That's right. We can just wear this and listen to Metallica, and
Well, as long as Lars is okay with it.
that's right. Drink water, and we're good.
Check this out. This is like the 3rd time this has happened to me. I'm not going to call this dude's name because he, this is just between me and him. But I got a letter from Oxford Orphanage the other day, and it's a letter saying somebody has made a donation to the orphanage in your behalf because of something nice that you did for them. And they don't really tell you what. They just say, because you were a Masonic influence in this dude's, life, he's made a $50 donation in your name to them.
So you've had this happen twice. You've had somebody say,
This is the 3rd time. I think this same guy's done it twice. I can't remember who the other guys were, but I'm pretty sure that this is the 2nd time that this guy's done it. He listens to the show. He'll know who he is. I just don't want to say.
Apparently, Brown, we're doing something wrong, man. He's the 3rd time you've done something awesome that somebody felt was awesome, and they said, hey, we're going to give you guys some money, and we're donating it in the name of Ben Wallace.
Yeah, and
Or
so
in the honor of Ben Wallace.
Yes, that's exactly right. So anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with me.
Right, that's pretty cool, man.
Well, it is pretty cool. I mean, I was very honored that happened. But the point is, I just wanted to point out to all the Masons, all 12 of the guys that listen to this show, that that's certainly an option for you. I thought it was a very nice touch on this guy's behalf. He just wanted to show his appreciation. So if you, as regular Mason out there, would like to show your appreciation to a dude, but you don't really know how to do it, you don't want to send him flowers, or a handwritten card as Campbell does, and I've gotten to where I do a fair amount of that. This is a nice way to show your appreciation without embarrassing the dude. Or
Okay, so what
money.
do they do? So if you give the orphanage, if I give the orphanage money and I say Ben Wallace is super cool and he's awesome that way, and I want to make this donation or pledge in his honor, what does the orphanage do to let you know that it happened?
They send you a letter.
Okay.
And so I get a letter from, I think it came from Chris Richardson, from somebody up there that says, it's just a letter, and it says, on behalf of Oxford Orphanage, we would like to let you know that this brother made a donation in your name in the amount of. We thank you for what you're doing for Masonry, and you're wonderful, and the kids really appreciate it. And it was longer than that, but
That's awesome.
yeah, it was. I thought it was really cool.
And they tell you the brother who did it.
Yep. So if it's a nice way. If you got somebody you want to show some appreciation to, yeah, you can. And I assume that you can do the same thing to either the foundation or Whitestone. I don't know. I've never gotten one from them, but I'm sure you can.
So another way of giving.
Yeah, pretty cool.
It is.
Hey, you know what we got to do? If for those of you that are watching, if you could pan over here to the right, which I want to ask Brown to do it because it like disrupt everything. We have a whole box of shirts over here from the Rumble. Then we got T-shirts. After a little bit of wailing and gnashing of teeth, we have managed to get, and big thanks to Larry Thompson and the guys at Blackmer for making that happen. We have T-shirts for all the kids.
We're very excited about that.
We need to run that up. Hey, you know what, Brown? That would fit in your tour pack. If you didn't put anything else in your tour pack, and we rode to Oxford, you could get it in there. I see another ride coming.
Or if we could find one for your motorcycle.
Yeah, I don't think I'll do that. But I could strap some of your stuff or put it in my saddlebags. But you ought to go with us.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah, we need to go up there and give it to them. Really cool. All right, let's talk about a few current events. Brown, got any idea what time we started this thing?
I sure don't.
Why do we even bought a doggone clock and I never look at it.
It's behind me.
Well,
And it's working. I put it up there.
yeah.
Is it still right?
Let's take a guess at it. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say 25s are out. How about that? No, 8:35. 8:35s are out. All right, let's talk about a few current events. So the next thing that's fixing to happen is this weekend, Wilkerson College Lodge is fixing to have its symposium. Nope, check it. That's not right. The next thing, Bob Davis is coming. Bob Davis is coming Friday to Sophia Lodge. For those of you guys that do not know Bob Davis, he's a Masonic author, has written several wonderful books. He's one of my very favorite speakers. He has a unique speaking voice, and his cadence and rhythm that he uses when he speaks is one of those that just sticks in your head. So now every time I read his writing, I hear it in his voice. All speakers aren't like that, because sometimes you just I saw a dude speak, but I don't really remember. But it just kind of burned into my brain, and so and he's a great writer, and it's even better when you can hear him talk. Anyway, he's coming to Sophia. That's going to be this coming Saturday, which is anybody know? Pull out a calendar. This is riveting radio right here, right?
The 6th?
Maybe.
Right?
I don't know. Hang on, calendar coming up. The 7th. No, that's May. We may have to cut this out. All right, the 4th. All right, so the 4th of June is when Bob is going to be here. This thing's going to barely be out by the time we get it worked up and out. But anybody that wants to come to Sophia to see him is welcome to. It's going to be a great time. Following that, we have a Harmony. However, I think all the tickets are probably gone for it. That's a limited seating, ticketed event, and they'll be gone. But while he's here, staying very near the tractor shed here, we're going to try and strong-arm him into doing a podcast. What do you think, Brown?
Sounds great to me.
All right. So hopefully we're going to be able to get him on the show.
And then when's the symposium?
And that'll be Friday night if we do it, Riley. The symposium is the next weekend, the 11th. So we got two. Wilkerson College Lodge Symposium is going to be at the Greensboro Masonic Temple. There are two guest speakers. One is Kevin Townley. The other is Tim Hogan. They are both esoteric kind of guys, and they are both fabulous speakers. I've seen Tim speak many times, and he is always just riveting. I love the way he always makes a point. He'll always talk about stuff without actually talking about it, so you kind of come to your own conclusions. I don't know how he does that. It's kind of an art. Kevin, I have met several times and talked to in person, but I've never seen him, speak at a crowd. But I know a lot of guys that have, and they say that he is really, really good. I know that he is a really, really smart dude. Wrote a book called Cuba Space. Tim's written a whole bunch of books. And everybody probably knows Tim more just because he's been here to North Carolina speaking at Masonic events for us. But those guys will both be speaking on the same day. They'll alternate. One of them will do a program, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. At the same time, downstairs there's going to be the ritual competition. Since I am the past master of that lodge, I have not as been involved in that as I probably should have been this year. I understand they got maybe 3 or 4 teams, but it should be a good time. Should be a really good day, full day of Masonic stuff, really heavy hitter national level guys, and that's on the 11th. So please come out and support that if you can. Coming up in August, the Masonic Restoration Foundation is going to have their symposium. This is a national symposium that just happens to be in North Carolina this year. That's going to be at the Masonic Center at 80 Broadway in Asheville, North Carolina.
Is that the 19th through the 22nd?
Yes, 19th through the 22nd. You can get tickets by going, just Google Masonic Restoration Foundation, and you'll come up with a website that'll have all the information there. I can't tell you what heavy hitters they're going to have there as far as national level guys. I mean, Bob Cooper is going to be the keynote speaker. Fabulous speaker. One of the probably 5 most famous Masons in the world. He's from Scotland. It's going to be a really good day of Masonic stuff there. It's got a traditional observance focus, so if you're remotely interested in that kind of thing, then that's the event for you. Dr. Berman. Dr. Berman is the Prestonian lecturer, and he was here, I don't know, first of the year sometime, and he's written a couple of different books. He was a wonderful speaker. Very well-renowned guy. I mean, the Prestonian lecture is like, that's the cream of the crop when it comes to, big-name Masons that are out on the speaking tour. Well, he came here earlier in the year, and we begged. I don't know about everybody else, but I begged and pleaded and cajoled, and Speed Hallman got involved and really put on his show for Dr. Berman and got him into UNC and in one of the libraries there, and there's some kind of grant that he's got now from UNC to write a book about North Carolina Freemasonry during colonial times. So I guess most of the listeners are familiar with the Parmore book. That covers the first 50 years. They had this guy named Dr. Parmore that they hired. He was not a Mason. They hired him in, would it possibly have been for the 200th anniversary? No, I think it was earlier than that, maybe the 175th anniversary. Sometime in the 70s, I think, maybe is when he did this. All right, here we go speculating again, just not having no facts. But sometime, I think in the 70s, they hired this guy to do the first 50 years history of the, hey, there's your cooler, Brown. And, he wrote the definitive history of the first 50 years of the Grand Lodge. But nobody's really picked it up and done any history after that. So Dr. Berman will do both, I think both recover Parmore's work and do, I don't know how many years into the future he would do. But this is a major historian. I mean, this isn't like just some dude that, likes history, like
Right.
some of us. And this is going to be a huge deal for history of North Carolina Masonry. Anyway, he's coming back. He'll be at annual communication. I haven't heard officially, but I'm sure that he'll be speaking there, I would think. I would be shocked if he wasn't. And at the same time, he's going to be doing research over at UNC, and I'm sure that we'll wrangle him into 2 or 3 other speaking events of some nature. So everybody kind of have your radar up for that. If you like history and you like North Carolina Masonry, stuff will be going on with him, I promise. All right, we've been dragging here. I hate doing these current events. I think it's important to do them to get the word out, but I know that if people are listening to it, they're just rolling their eyes going, will you get to whatever it is you're going to talk about? Because most of these guys know all this stuff already, right? I mean, most of the listeners are pretty involved guys. Anyway. Hubba Hubba Barbecue. Was it Hubba Hubba Smokehouse?
Hubba Hubba Smokehouse.
Flat Rock.
Is that where you guys were eating the chicken and the chicken walked by?
Yeah.
That's it.
Awesome.
If anybody, this is a really unique place. We did this on vacation, and just one more vacation thing. I can't help but talk about it. I want to throw those guys some love because they really have a great restaurant there. Flat Rock, North Carolina, somewhere way out west, kind of down on the South Carolina line. Maybe, I don't know where the hell we were at. Where were we at, Brown? Is that right?
South of Hendersonville.
South of Hendersonville. Anyway, really good place. If you get by there, please go by and see them. I saw Chris Hodap had put up. Did you see this thing? You ever look at Hodap's site? Did you see that he had quoted The Motley Fool? And The Motley Fool is a website. These guys wrote a book that talks about personal finances. And they had done, or they cited, and he cited them, they took like a poll, and they were asking millennials about, what was important to them. And they were doing this for financial stuff, but Hodap cited it, talking about Masonry. And it was talking about the idea that guys that are now, I said millennials, I guess really this was boomers they were talking about, because they were talking about people that are just starting to retire now, people that are like Darla's age, mid-50s, and how a lot of them said that the thing that they missed most about working, that they asked these retired people what they missed most about working. Guess what it was? Did you read it?
I didn't read it, but I'm guessing the people.
The people. It was the people. They missed interacting with their coworkers and having a group of folks that, other than their family, to interact with. And so, they were talking about it for money purposes, but Chris was talking about it for Masonry. And, come to think of it, you see quite a few guys. We always keep talking about getting guys in their 20s and their 30s, when they're starting to get settled down a little bit and ready for Masonry. But really, that's an overlooked, target audience. I mean, we don't recruit, but there's a lot of guys that are retiring, and the more I think about it, the more I can remember a bunch of guys that
looking
age
for something
coming in.
to do.
Yeah, looking for something to do to get him. They get in and they get involved. Look at our junior deacon right now is one of those guys, kind of retired, and loves having a group of guys to hang out with. Just don't forget those guys when you're out, chatting up folks in the community.
That's right.
Or guys are asking you about it. Just because they're not in their 30s doesn't mean, if a guy's asking you about Masonry, that he doesn't mean that he doesn't want to join too. You get a guy in his 50s or 60s, he may very well be looking for something to do. Maybe he worked all those years and he had his work life, and then he came home and he had his home life, and he had his time divided out just right. And then maybe when he retired, he had to go home and spend all that time with his wife and figured out, I need a hobby, honey. Or maybe his wife is telling him, you got to get a hobby.
Yeah.
You got to get out of this house. You're driving me crazy. That's what Darla would do to me. You got to find something to do. Anyway, don't forget those guys. All right, man, check this out. So this has been weighing on my mind here lately. I got two friends in Masonry, both listen to the show. I'm not going to call either one of them's names or tell their specific situation. Two totally different guys, two totally different problems that they're having with Masonry. And they all revolve around the fact, I'm going to be really careful here. I'm not sure if I've got that in me.
Well, thank God we can edit this.
No. This is where we start to go off the rails, Brown. Now, both of these guys are having issues with their brothers in Masonry, with some of their brothers.
Right.
One of them's having a specific problem with a brother, and the other one is having a general problem with a lot of brothers. All right. And they're really having a hard time. I mean, one of them is talking about quitting Masonry altogether, and he's a very active, involved Mason. And it's just driving him crazy, man. The fact that, he's having trouble with these other brothers. And there's always two sides to every story, and, I'm not really involved in the specifics of it. But I know how upset he is. The other one that's having trouble with a specific brother is, just really struggling with the fact that he loves Masonry, loves the idea of Masonry, but is having just a real hard time in this situation that he's been put in with another brother. And there's this project, and working on this project, and it's not going too well, and he's really frustrated with it. But in both cases, it's really the same situation if you look at it from this standpoint. They're dudes that came into Masonry and really, really dug into what it means. And here was my thought process in wanting to talk about this. It seems to me that most everything in our society is screwed up in this manner. I love our country. I love our system of government. Who's got a better system of government than we do? I mean, there may be some other folks that arguably have as good a system, but when we came up with it, when we fought for it, when our forefathers risked everything, including their life and their property, and their family fortune and their well-being, they put everything on the line for an idea that man should be manifest over his own self-government. Everything. They risked everything. Randy Browning was talking about this the other day in a lecture that he was giving. Imagine if today we felt that our government was oppressive. Boy, we could go a long way down this road. We're not going
we
to.
could get way off the rails.
But things were bad enough that we felt like we needed to fight a revolution for it. And you knew that if you lost, or even if your side won, that it was very likely that they were going to come and burn your house down and seize all your property. And if they captured you, throw you in jail at best and execute you at worst. Now things you got to really believe in something to go to that extreme for it, because it's awful easy to say, it ain't my problem. Or, yeah, I know it's a problem, but damn, I'm not going to risk everything for it. I'm not going to risk everything for that. We're getting along. I got groceries, but they didn't do that. So they risked everything for this way of government. And somehow they won. But against all odds, they won this revolution, right? And then we set up our own government. And it's this beautiful system of representative government where, you, Riley, and you, Sean, get to go to the polls and cast a vote for the people that are going to represent you at a national or state level. And we as Americans all understand that. Some better than others, but most people understand how important that is. I vote in every election. I can't remember the last time I didn't vote. And it hurts my heart so bad to see that system, once it leaves my polling place, once I vote for my dude, and win or lose, that person goes to Raleigh or Washington and gets sucked into this quagmire politics has become. Now, we still live in a great country, and I try to put a positive spin on everything. We certainly have a better government than most of them in the world. I'm not sure that I would trade ours for a lot of places, but you become disenfranchised with the system when you see what a quagmire it has become.
That's right.
So the point of all that is you want so desperately to believe in the system. And the system is screwed up. Now, I'm not fixing to go get my gun and quit my job and go on the warpath. And I'm not getting into politics. I'm not even talking about politics. I'm talking about the fact that something you hold so dear, something so near and dear, is something that you lose faith in.
Right.
You agree?
I agree.
It's disheartening, isn't it?
Right.
All right. So here's another institution that I have trouble with. This is my church. I'm a Methodist. I'm a good Methodist. No, I'm not. I love the Methodist Church. I don't go as much as I should. How about that?
We're going off the rails.
Danger. All right. Darla goes to church every Sunday, and I go when I can. I don't go as much as I should sometimes. But, I take it in spells. Anyway, I love the Methodist Church, though. I love the idea of the church. But organized religion in general is something that I feel like has been, to some extent, corrupted. Now, there's, just like our government, and I love our government, I don't want to trade it for anybody. I love my Methodistism.
Right.
How do you say that word? Methodism. Anyway, I like it, but in general, I feel like somewhere between where Jesus was going around talking to folks and what we have got today from the church, I feel like some of that message maybe got a little bobbled up and lost.
That's right. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So I like Jesus a whole lot. I like the church. And so I feel like, somewhere along there, the message got lost. And that made me for a long time, though, as I really started to get into religion and really look at religion. And this really happened, and I'm going to tell you some personal stuff. So like after I got into Masonry is when I really got to thinking about religion and spirituality.
Right.
Because until then, I just kind of went to church because that's where everybody did, right?
Sure.
You belong to a church, you go
That's
to
what
church,
you grew
that's
up,
what you do.
You were taught.
That's what I knew. But as I got into Masonry, I got to really, examining those things. And then I started to separate out my spirituality and my religion, which I had never done before. I thought it was the same thing.
Just like Freemasonry, you were saying, you just dove in.
Yeah.
Trying to learn everything you could.
Yeah, so as I got into separating those two things, the more I got into it, I began to realize that they were two separate things, my spirituality and my religion. And I began to question my religion. I went through this phase right here that goes something like this. I think that some of the people that wrote the Bible got Jesus' message in places wrong. I like Jesus' message. I think some of the people got it messed up somewhere along the line. So that means, hence, ergo, it's all wrong. If they didn't get it exactly right, they've got to have it exactly wrong, was the way that I thought for a while. And I really pulled away from the church and from religion in general and concentrated just on my spirituality. And what wound up happening was the deeper that I got into it, I wound up coming back to my religion in a stronger sense. I think I went through a trial by fire where I was, pretty close to giving up on it altogether. But then I found when I came back to it with new eyes and new ears.
Right. So you were saying exploring that made you a better Methodist.
Yeah, I'm sure so. It certainly made me a better Christian. And I don't know about people of other faiths, but I think that you would find the same thing. As a dude starts to really explore in depth, which Freemasonry made me start to do, then I think that they start to see that separation of spirituality and religion. And then they parse it out, and then hopefully they'll do like I did and come back to and embrace their religion with a new way of looking at it. And they'll like it better. But the point is, just like we were talking with the government, that you lose faith in it, you become disenfranchised from it because it's kind of messed up. I think that Christianity in general is somewhat messed up. Ooh, boy, we're going to hell for this one, aren't we? I hope Gene Cobb doesn't listen to this. He's going to whoop up on me. Anyway, I think it causes people, especially when they first start to really examine that, to become disenfranchised with the church.
And I think that's a true statement. I think a lot of people go through that. They just don't talk about it.
That's right. And maybe we'll do a whole show on it sometime. I would love to do a whole show on this sometime. We try to stay away from the esoteric stuff in the deeper philosophical side of Masonry, but maybe it's time for us to start, but not tonight. The point that I'm making with those two things are those are two institutions that I personally, and I think most of the listeners, Christianity and the United States of America, love the idea of, love the message, love what it stands for, but are frustrated with it in the way that it has manifested, where it's come today. Now,
Now bring our two brothers into play.
Now we're going to bring these two brothers into this. When I came into Masonry, and, you know, we don't want to give anything away, but to anybody that may not be a Mason that's listening, but when you have that shock of enlightenment, when you have that first time that you were brought to light, if it's done moderately well, it's a profound experience, and if it's done really well, it's almost an epiphany. I mean, it's really powerful, right? Life changing, and then you listen to the words of the lectures, and you learn your catechism, and you start to read a little bit about Masonry, and you think, you know, in that first 6 months, you think, I found it. I have finally found an institution.
Eureka.
That is not corrupted. That is still pure. That has not become, you know, the quagmire the government has, or
watered
gone
down,
off
or
topic. Yeah, and you're like, my God, I've been waiting on this my whole life, and we, as humans, so desperately want to believe that there is a perfected system of something out there, and when you become a part of it, you're like, I can't believe it. I have found it. And then you start to become disenfranchised because you start to see the ugly underbelly of Freemasonry. And part of that is, you know, you just think when you see your degree for the first time, you are just in awe of the fact that those guys learned all those words. Well, it's a little disheartening when you go to somebody else's lodge and you figure out that those guys are better than your guys. Or, you know, that somebody's doing better, and maybe this isn't as good as I thought it was. It was really good to me, but, you know, maybe these guys aren't as good as I thought it was. And then you hear guys infighting in the lodge, and somebody's complaining about somebody else, and you're fighting over money. And then all the little things start to come out. And then you have the case of these guys, or one of them, you know, has especially these guys are somewhat muckety-mucks in Freemasonry. Their problems isn't so much at their Blue Lodge level, but and the higher you go, the more that stuff goes on. And the egos get involved, and pride, and you just want it to be the perfect system that you thought it was.
And then you start second guessing.
When you were brought to light. And then you start second guessing. And then you start getting pissed off. And then you're like, almost like I was, you know, with the church. Well, if it's all wrong, if it's not all right, then it's got to be all wrong. And then it's the whole system, and everybody's, you know, part of the problem. And then you find yourself hating Freemasonry.
Frustrated.
Yeah, you're not hating it, but yeah, frustrated.
You're frustrated, and then you've just got kind of a negative tone to everything, and it just, I mean, it's just, you're looking at it in a different way.
Yeah, it's your hobby.
It's changed your view.
It's your hobby, and you're hating it.
Passion.
Yeah. I mean, and we all go through periods of that, right? I mean, and both at the Blue Lodge level, and no matter how high you go, the higher you go, the more frustration there is when something goes wrong. But, you know, even at the Blue Lodge level, I mean, you got that, man. You got stuff going on in your lodge that you're like, man, I just want to quit this shit. I just want to quit it. It's no fun anymore. I'm supposed to have fun doing this. I used to play golf, and I loved it. Well, no, I didn't love golf.
I used to ride motorcycles, and now I don't ride as much.
Yeah, so you're like, what do I want to give up my time to come do this for, to come deal with this problem, whatever problem it may be that you're having with Masonry?
But how's it going to get better if you quit?
Well, now, so we've been talking about the problem. We're going to talk about the solution, and I'm not sure what the solution is. These two guys have
Thank God for this disclaimer.
Yeah, these two guys are in such bad situations that, you know, I'm not sure how for them to fix their problem. I mean, they're not just, you know, a guy at the lodge they're not getting along with, or they're frustrated by having to pay the bills too much. Yeah, they got big deals going on. But I think the point that I want to try and make is, out of all that, is when you first come into Masonry and you like it because you think, you know, you finally found it, that one thing that's working, somehow you've got to keep that enthusiasm, and you've got to understand that there's nothing perfect in life. You remember when you first dating your wife, when you were boyfriend and girlfriend, or, even when you first get married, boy, everything's just rosy. And I mean, we both have, great marriages. All three of us have great marriages. We're really blessed. But, at some point, I'm trying to not tell a dirty joke here, but, I mean, at some point, you find out that, they've got bad habits and they see your bad habits, and, it's not that honeymoon forever.
Right.
And, most of us settle into a pattern, like with the three of us, thank goodness, have, where we're in very comfortable, happy relationships. But, we get frustrated with each other. We fight over things. I'm sure any two humans do that are put in that situation. Marriage, the church, the government, the lodge, there are no perfect institutions. If you're dealing with humans, if you're dealing with more than one other human, you're going to have problems.
Right.
And you just got to find a way to work through them. And you've got to find, here we come down the finish line. You've got to find a way to look at the positives and overlook the negatives. Because if you only look at and you get captured into the negatives, then you're going to be there forever because they're everywhere, right?
And that's what our two brothers that we're talking about have to remember. Remember why you got into it. Remember all the good aspects that you liked about it. This is just part of the bad portion of the storm.
Yeah, and I'm not even talking about them. I'm using them as an example to talk about any brother. Any brother.
Anywhere, across the board.
We all get frustrated at our Blue Lodge, at our Grand Lodge, at our any level. At any level, you get frustrated. But how do you fix that? I don't know how to tell a man that you've got to somehow get past looking at this in the negatives and focusing on the negative, and you've got to focus on the positive. There is a beautiful, beautiful system of philosophy in Freemasonry. I mean, it changed my life. And the more you dive into what it's really telling you, the more you're gonna love it. And so you've got to love the lesson and overlook the personalities and the ego. And
I hope they don't give up. I mean, getting back, I know we're talking, broad about all brothers, but speaking of these two brothers, I hope they don't give up.
Yeah, I hope not either.
They're great brothers.
I don't think they will.
And I don't think they will. They just got to push through it, and know that it's for a better cause and for all the good stuff that we talk about, just the stuff that means and matters.
Yeah, and I think the reason that this hit home, this is happening to two of my friends, but it's happened to me too.
I think it's happened to all three of us.
I mean, I've been through the same thing, and at one point, some point, I just had to say, all right, look, this is effed up, but. I got two options. Quit or get on with the positives. That was the two. I had a talk with myself, and I said, you either got to quit or you got to get on with the positives and leave the negative stuff behind. Because if you don't, you can just waller in it forever.
That's right.
You can just waller in it forever. So.
Well, there's some things we have to tolerate.
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to. In every aspect, at your job, with your marriage,
what's better for masonry?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Put up with some things and move on.
And exactly, and just like with jobs, I mean, we just know that some things are just going to be that way, and it's out of our control.
Right.
No matter how hard we beat ourselves up about it, no matter how pissed off we get, no matter how much I call you and say, I despise this. This is not why I signed up for Freemasonry. It's not going to change. Yeah. There's just some things that cannot change, but you don't focus on those. You focus on things that you can change and that you can have a difference in, make a difference in, and that's us.
Yeah, and then like you said, Riley, if you think that you're in a position that you can make it better, and you don't,
then you're at fault.
Then shame on you.
You're part of the problem.
I stumbled in and lucked into being in some positions where I think I have a chance to make Freemasonry better. And if I don't do that because I'm, focused on some dude I'm having a problem with or some situation I'm having a problem with, then shame on me.
And you're a great person to talk to, and I know that you've been our coach, both Sean and I, and you're a great mentor. And I know Sean will agree with me on this. There's been numerous times across the state where we've all been sitting down, and some brother will come up to you, and I know there's several of those same exact brothers that are listening right now and watching, but they come up to you and they say, we've got this problem.
Yeah.
Or I've got this problem. And Ben, I just don't think it should be this way. And blah, 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 blah. And I'm not belittling each and every one of them's problem. I'm just saying they all came to you with the same mentality. I've came to you with the same mentality before.
Yeah.
And I know, I don't know exactly how you phrase it, but it's always pretty much, well, you just got to suck it up and go on. You can sit here and you can complain about it all day and be upset and be mad, or you can do something about it and not be part of the problem. Yeah. And I've heard you say it 100 million times, and that's really it's what it all boils down to. These two brothers can they can keep complaining to all people involved about it, or to you.
Yeah,
so
I don't want to keep talking about them because they're my friends. And
no,
I'm not beating up on them. I'm just using them as examples.
Yeah, we're all friends with them, and they know. I mean, hey,
the Calvary's not coming to save you.
No,
it's not just. I mean, in any situation, if you're in a situation in your Blue Lodge where you got a problem, or the Scottish Rite, or the whatever, nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah, you're behind the lines by yourself.
Yeah, you have got to deal with whatever's going on and press on through. I just wish we could. It's easy for us to sit here and say that.
I know.
And it's hard when you're the dude that's in the situation where you're having a problem.
And we don't.
And we all know. And we all know because
because
we've all been there.
That's right. We have been there. And the only thing is, just hey, don't give up. Keep pushing.
That's right. Stay positive.
We love you.
That's exactly right. We love you. Well said, Mr. Riley. How's our time looking? We got a few more minutes. Talk about my last thing on my list. Trying to be careful. I'm trying to think through this. We really should think through this a little more before we get into it.
So here's a prime example of this whole entire conversation on why we have a disclaimer.
That's exactly right.
Reference episode so and so.
So check this out. What committee are you on?
Publications.
All right, I'm fixing to start bashing people here, many of which are probably my friends. How many times y'all met this year?
None that I know of.
How much communication have you had from them?
I've had one meeting that I know of so far that we had last year.
I'm
not knocking it.
What kind of objectives do y'all have this year? What are y'all going to do this year?
I don't know of anything.
Brown, what committee are you on?
Public relations.
How many times y'all met this year?
None.
What do you think? What's y'all's agenda for this year?
I'm still waiting to hear that.
Have you had any communication? Anybody called you and said we're having a meeting or
None.
you need to be here?
Well, I don't feel alone.
Here's what I want to know. How in the hell do we have all these Grand Lodge committees that don't do anything? And y'all aren't the only two. Randy's on some committee, and he said they hadn't met either. And nobody's called, and he doesn't know what they're doing. So apparently the only committee, I don't want to say this now, I'm not going to say the only committee doing anything is ours, is Masonic Education.
That sounds like exactly what you're saying.
Well, I know, because of the three of us in this room, of the committees that we're on in this room, it is. And whatever committee it is that Randy's on, I don't know I can't remember what he's on.
I will say you do a lot of work on your committee.
There may be some other committees that are meeting, but the point is, I was on committees before this committee, and we didn't do anything either. And nobody ever called. You get that letter at the beginning of the year, you've been appointed to the so-and-so committee. And then, the first year I'd call up halfway through the year, hey, we going to meet? Well, what's going on? I don't know. So-and-so's the chairman. Call him. And just never get an answer.
Right.
No, we're not going to meet. Nothing's going on. We're not doing anything. What are we doing? Nothing. And to me, that's just, why have them if we're not going to do anything? And your Blue Lodge is the same way, right?
Right.
So in your Blue Lodge, you got committees, and guys aren't doing anything on them. They're prescribed by the Grand Lodge that we got to have them. So we put guys on them, but we don't expect them to do anything. Well, I can almost understand it at a Blue Lodge level better than I can the Grand Lodge level. Why aren't any of these committees doing anything? Our committee has a monthly meeting, by go-to meeting, and we've got one live meeting scheduled this year, only one in person. But I got guys literally from Ocracoke to wherever Dave Cashin is, Highlands. It's hard to get the guys together. But you know what we got today? Technology. You can do a go-to meeting, or you can pick up the phone, or you can send a letter, or you can send it by a pigeon, something. You can do something other than doing nothing. It makes me mad. I don't know if you don't want to. If you're the chairman of a committee and you aren't going to do anything, you're not even going to call up the dudes on the committee and say, "Hey, dude,
We're not
Thanks for
doing
being on the
anything.
committee. We ain't doing nothing this year. If you can't even do that, then, and again, these people may be my friends. I don't know who's the chair of all these committees.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. But don't be the chair of that. When they say,
That's right.
would you like to be the chair of what committee are you on?
Publications.
Of the publications committee, and you know you're not going to do anything that year, say no. Let some other dude do it that'll at least call the dudes on the committee. I mean, and I don't even know what publications is supposed to do, but surely there's some kind of work in masonry that needs to be done, or they wouldn't have the doggone committee. It drives me crazy. So why are they not doing it? Is it just laziness?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Maybe
Brown,
they're just
idea?
like us. They don't have enough time.
Do you
to
think they
everything.
don't have enough confidence to know what to do? Maybe there's nothing that needs to be done. Is that? I know the PR committee's got something to do.
You would think.
It makes no sense to me. So either there's something afoot that I don't know about, which I is possible. But I think in all likelihood, people just say they'll be on the committee, and then there's no burning desire to do anything, and nobody tells them, hey, why doesn't your committee tackle this issue this year? And they just kind of coast. They coast it out.
I think sometimes it comes along the lines of we're all appointed and asked to be on these committees, and we know that it has the Grand Line jurisdiction on it, and a lot of your Grand Line officers are in some of these committees, and some of the past masters are in some of these committees, and sometimes it's just, you're like, I don't know if I should say anything or not. I don't want to make anybody mad. I don't want to offend anybody by saying this, and maybe that's why some other things are not being talked about, is they don't want to offend the hierarchy of the Grand Line, which we've got a lot of great Grand Line guys, and I don't know of a better group of guys to ask a question to if you're not real sure, or if you just say, hey, this is kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, they're great to bounce ideas off of. But I think that for younger guys like Sean and I, that which we're a lot more comfortable now with the Grand Line, but when I first got on the publications committee, I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to say anything. I remember we had the one meeting that we did have. It was over telephone. There was all these people talking, and it was a lot of the Grand Line officers that were in there, and they were talking about how we were going to change the publication and things. And I threw out a couple of ideas, not knowing, being young, a young Freemason, and they were like, yeah, that's a great idea, but we can't do that. And so after throwing out a couple, and which they were very nice about it, and they offered a lot of feedback while we were in the meeting about why we couldn't do those couple of things that I thought would be okay. But after that, I was like, oh, I'm kind of out of my league here. I might not just be quiet and let the big boys talk. They're at the table. So it was a little intimidating. But now, I feel a little better about it, and I know Sean, and you've been around it for a long time, so you're a little more comfortable.
Like maybe a committee chair handbook.
Well, now, interesting. You should bring that up, Brown. So that's going to lead into a different show. But so I was thinking about all this today. Recently I was thinking about this. I was thinking about doing it for the show, and I was just mad about the fact that we didn't do anything. I can remember being on a committee that didn't do anything, and I was embarrassed for people to say. Bill Bruton would always say, oh, Ben's on the I think I was on the library committee. Ben's on the library committee. I'm like, don't tell anybody, because they're going to ask me what we do, and I'm like, say nothing. Anyway, so I was thinking about what the problem was, and I'll just tell you, I don't know what the problem is. Probably it's something different for the different committees. And again, some of the committees, I'm sure, are active. I didn't poll them. I didn't call.
Sure. I'm
people.
sure.
I just knew you two guys and Randy, because we're in the same Blue Lodge, and this conversation came up not too long ago, and I've been thinking about it. So I think part of the problem, from talking to some of the Grands, I didn't specifically ask them this question, but one of the problems that they have told me that they have is that they have something like, I'm going to throw a number out here, and I know it's going to be wrong, because every number we ever throw out is wrong. But I think they told me they had something like 160 appointments a year. That's between DDGMs, DDGLs that are rotating out, committees and boards and stuff like that. So,
how do you vet that?
Yeah, how do you vet them? Because you don't know 160 really good active dudes. You might know, or I might know, or the Grand's been around a little bit longer. As they come up through the line, they've been exposed to a few more people. But if you know 30 or 40 really good, active dudes that will do
And those
what
guys,
they're supposed to
those
do.
guys
and you're
come to the
lucky.
top. You hear about those
Yeah.
guys.
But then you still got 130, 20 to and so, and you don't know them. You don't know anything about them. So, what do? You call up some dude in the mountains or the beach and say, "Hey, I need a DDGM for the whatever district or a
Who you got?
I need somebody for the publications committee." Yeah, who you got? You know anybody? Hey, I know this guy over in so lodge, and he seems like a pretty switched on dude. Okay, we'll appoint him. I think that's how it goes. So they tell me that they don't have a good pool to pull from. They rely heavily on Wilkerson College graduates. And so here's where I'm really going with this. How are we going to develop a pool of people for them to pull from that are maybe not perfect committee members, but are a little more switched on than some of the guys, obviously, that we have on running committees now, meaning the chair of them.
That means you got to get young Masons involved.
Yeah, you got to get young guys involved, and you need to know something about them.
Or not necessarily young.
So Wilkerson College is certainly one way, right? If
Right.
a dude goes to Wilkerson College, that doesn't mean he's going to be a good master or a good dude for a committee.
He's just taking initiative.
But he took the initiative to go, and so he's probably percentage-wise, if you took the guys that were Wilkerson College grads, maybe this is just the cold hard facts. There's a percentage of them that just aren't going to make it for whatever reason. Matter of fact, we have at Wilkerson College a spreadsheet that shows the guys that Mac developed this, and it goes back so many years. We have pretty good data back so many years. They didn't do this right to begin with. You can look at all the guys that went through, and some of them have deceased, some of them NPD'd, which you wouldn't think that would happen to a Wilkerson College grad, but it happens. Some of them never made it to master for whatever reason. Maybe they moved off. I don't know. We don't know why. They just never made it to master. And so, but percentage-wise, you probably have, Mac's going to kill me, I'm just throwing numbers out at random here, but anyway, probably 80 or 85% of those dudes turned out to be master of their lodge and are probably good, solid dudes. Where if you took your general population of Masons, all 30 or 40,000 of them, however many we got, a smaller percentage would be a guy you would want on a committee. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So as we start the Davy Academy, which I don't want to get into that because we're going to do a whole show on the Davy Academy. But as we start the Davy Academy, which is, just in case anybody doesn't know, the boot camps are going away. This is going to be a 12-month-a-year educational program. Year-round, it's built from the bottom up. It's going to provide Masonic education on a variety of topics, especially leadership and management, to guys all across the state, and we're going to bring it to locations closer to the guys. And it's going to be, there's multiple classes. It's not just like you go to Davy Academy and that's it. It's not like a one-day Davy Academy class. There's like different classes on different topics, and so you can take them. So it's like kind of like Wilkerson College in a way. So as we develop those guys and put them through the system and keep records of them, then we're going to know, then the Grandmasters will start to have both the Wilkerson College grads and guys that have been through the whole Davy Academy program. And then you start to get a richer pool to pull from. And someday, in a perfect world, if Ben gets his way, I would love to see us have a day where maybe a little North Carolina symposium for committee members, where you bring all the committee chairs in and they actually meet the dudes that are on their committee and look them in the eye and shake their hand and say, and when you appoint them, you say, if I appoint you to this committee, you got to commit to be at the
such and such symposium.
Initiation. What do y'all call it when you have students come in right at the first of the
orientation?
Year? Orientation. You have to come to the orientation, and then you bring the Grandmaster brings them in. He talks to all the committee members and chairs in a group. Everybody breaks out into little breakout sessions, and then you have some training on what it means to be or on your committee. And your chair then lays out, or he could do it. He could do the training. I mean, it's not a lot of training. It's, here's what this committee is. Here's what we do. Here's what our charge is. Here's our agenda for this coming year. Here's what we're going to do. Really nice to meet you. I'm going to have set you up on a go-to meeting, or here's how you do that.
And this is what we need from you.
Or have a phone call. Yeah.
This is what we need from you.
Yeah.
That's what we forget to tell most people.
And does anybody have any ideas? Does anybody have any questions?
What do you think?
What do you think? And I mean, that wouldn't that be cool? To begin with, you'd get a lot of guys that don't want to come to the orientation, and those are guys you probably don't want anyway. Now, some of them maybe couldn't if they have a scheduling conflict. I don't know how you'd work around that. I hadn't thought this thing through that far. But wouldn't it be nice to actually be able to meet the chairman of your committee and him say, here's what we got going on, and have a meeting?
Yeah.
Maybe at Grand Lodge.
At Grand Lodge would be a very good place. That's where our committee's meeting this year, at Grand Lodge. So, I don't know, boys. I just know that what we got ain't working, it doesn't seem to me like, from down here in the trenches. And every time we talk about a topic like this, some of the grands will come up to me after and say, "Oh, Ben, you just don't, you don't understand. There's this problem and that problem. It's harder than you think." And they're usually right. They usually have reasons why. And I'm not saying that the one day to get them all together is, is the end all be all at one day where we all come together. But I certainly think that the committees ought to meet real live in person at least once a year. Is that too much to ask?
Nope.
Anyway. All right, so that's my high horse. I think we're going to be over an hour, Brown, or we're going to be close to it. So, I guess we're on that happy note. Boy, I hate to leave on a downer. Can't we leave
That's
on
not a
something
downer,
happy?
man. That could be positive.
Hey,
Minutes.
here's the way we're going to spin it positive.
Spin it.
We are going to keep talking about this until we can affect a way to make it better. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to help the grands figure it out. We're going to throw them some ideas and just get them talking about it.
I know, and when they watch this, they're going to say, "We greatly appreciate you trying to find solutions."
But
it's always easy for somebody to point out the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
Solutions are always good, and we'll keep hashing that out. We'll come up with it.
Right. We want the committees to be working.
Sure.
Here's another part that drives me crazy. I don't know about I have no idea what your budget is. I didn't look it up. But I looked up his committee's budget. You know where that budget's going if they don't spend it this year? Neither do I. Right back into the general fund, I guess. But it's not in next year's budget. It doesn't carry over. Where's that money go? Which that is absolutely above my pay grade. I don't know where it goes, but I mean, if we budget for it, let's use it.
We're getting ready to come up missing. People are never going to see us after this podcast. What happened to Ben and Riley?
And I'm not talking.
Anyway, I know on education I'm gonna spend it all. I'm gonna find something productive to spend it on, which the Davie Academy is gonna take a fair amount of money. But like with PR, I mean, they got a ton of money they could be spending doing something. Actually, what we're gonna do is I've flown the idea of them helping launch the Davie Academy.
I think that'd be good.
Which I need to find out who the chair of that committee is, and I'll run it. And unless you want to run it through you.
And on publication, on a strong note for publication, it just so happened our very first meeting we had a lot of big stuff that was rolling out, changing. And after that, I mean, it's kind of pretty much taking care of itself. It's not. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be meeting, because there's other publications, I'm sure, or different things that we could be doing. I just know that very first meeting last year was kind of everything was lumped into that one big meeting, and it was a very important meeting.
Do you guys look after printing the code?
That I don't know.
Well, if so, if y'all ever have a meeting, how about telling them to print a doggone code? The last one that was printed was 2012. And they keep telling me that they hadn't printed it because they got it on digits. Well, yeah, I know they got it on digits, but I like having a book. I like being able to put little tabbies in the book. I can find it faster. I can find it faster than, and I don't like getting on the internet when they're in the lodge. I don't like being in the lodge room and pulling out your phone and getting on the internet. I don't like that.
Because then everybody's thinking, man, there's Ben, he's playing on his cell phone.
Yeah, so
how dedicated is he?
So listen,
he just wants to tell us how to run the show, and he's over there playing on his cell phone.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe we'll just let it lay. Anyway, tell him to publish the doggone code.
I'll try my best.
Tell him Ben said. I'm sure they don't care. All right, roll us out of here, Brown, before we get in any more trouble. Damn it.
I am smelling like the roses somebody gave me 'cause
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Masonain. For more information and productions, please visit and like our Facebook page at 357 Productions or 357productions.net. You may also email us at 357productionsteam@gmail.com. Again, that is 357productionsteam@gmail.com. As always, tell people that you love them, and remember, we meet on the level and part on the square.